We're here at the BNB Chain and Infium Founders Academy with Near 8, which will be presenting today, starting with Jim Matthews and his team.
Great. So Alec is sharing the screen, and we've reformulated this a little bit since we went through last time, and then to sort of broaden our problem and our solution, or change our problem and our solution slightly. So that's something to look out for. But to step back, we're a mobile XR gaming platform. And what we're attempting to provide is immersive XR entertainment. And then if you flip the slide, the problem that this is getting at is that there's this feeling of digital disconnectedness in users' everyday lives, and that it's like a paradox that you have more ways than ever to connect with, your high school friends on Facebook and what everyone's doing on Instagram and what they're eating and where they're traveling. You can connect with business people on Telegram and LinkedIn, but there's nothing that really hooks in your everyday life and your everyday moments into this digital world in a way that makes you feel a part of that. So we're not looking to replace all of those other things, but we're looking to provide sort of an additional entertainment space where you can have a fun experience connecting your everyday to, in this case, a metaverse project, which we'll get to on the next page here. So the solution is immersive XR entertainment that hooks you in wherever you are. This is like what we think of as on the fly. So it's not a game that you'll play on Friday night, and download and, have to set aside private, time at your computer or your console. But instead, it's something that you open up on the fly at Starbucks, at the bus stop, at the water cooler, in a boring meeting. And you participate in this by playing through our game, but also minting your own moments wherever you go or wherever you want to. So it could be a Instagram worthy moment like a birthday party, or your birthday party 5 years ago, if that inspires you to include that. But it could also be just your day to day, like going through the yoga class you're taking, or meeting up with a friend at Starbucks, or something that's an average everyday hook into the digital world. And we think of those as moments, but we're also starting to evolve that description into time hooks. So your on the fly moment that you upload is a time hook, which when you open our platform changes and presents the information that's on there in a dynamic way that relates to where you are right now. And within that, the product that's within that is a series of modular mobile gaming experiences, and those are your entry points into this fantastic or magic world that you want to enter when you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or want to contribute something. And it's real world fusion everywhere in a slightly different way from AR companies do now, and again, we're not looking to replace things like Pokemon Go, but there's a very limited AR concept right now, through Google and basically through what's possible in the last 5 to 10 years, where you can overlay either an image or a concept onto a physical space. That's really being built out and expanded in lots of ways, and it's exciting, and a lot of people enjoy playing Pokemon Go. It's also very, you become focused on the overlay and not on your connection into another world. You become focused on, the Pokemon that are in your space, but you don't think about a different digital world that you're becoming a part of through participation. You want to flip the slide? So our total market is based on the mobile gaming market. And we do that on purpose because to be on the fly, it's on your mobile device. Our audience and our testing is, really off the charts in, India and Brazil and places where mobile is the primary entry point into all of these new gaming experiences, especially for a younger audience, which in our case, we're going for 18 to 25. With further funding down the road, it might be a little bit younger than that too, but just for regulatory purposes and to have sort of a good starting point, we're starting with 18 to 25. So the market is 2.5 billion users and growing rapidly each year. And this really dwarfs, console games and PC games and the communities that play those. Again, that's a great, there may be some crossover between our audience and people who play console or PC games, but the time during your day that you would play those things is totally different. It's a totally different purpose and solution than what we're providing. We're providing a hook in for your everyday moments, whereas those games are providing, a few hours to escape, either by yourself or with friends while streaming. So we looked at other games that are competitors here, and the ones to highlight, obviously on the Web3 side, there's Decentraland and Sandbox, which are more virtual spaces that you fill out with your content, or a brand fills out with their content, and then users go occupy those spaces and explore them. Much has been made of, how do you get people to stay in there and to create events, whether it's concerts or whatnot, that attract people, because there's been a number of articles that it's lonely in the metaverse because there's these great spaces that have been built out, but a lot of times people will go sample them once and then not again. On the other end of the spectrum, on the far left corner, you have Pokemon Go, which is, noteworthy because it's essentially totally locked in IP for the most part, other than some historic stuff that they populate in there. But the branding and the IP and the experience is all, Pokemon characters, which makes sense because it's Pokemon Go. That was built on their original product of Ingress, which was, essentially the same technology without Pokemon appearing everywhere in there. So our project is meant to be in the middle of this and to sort of find a sweet spot for what could be explored in the future. And we're up near this other company called Blankos, which is a great example of a blockchain game that was built for blockchain, but can accommodate Web2 players and people on the fly, and just ease of onboard, new IP that you're not licensing from someone else. And it's a really sort of impressive game that you see mentioned in lots of industry conferences and everything. With ours, we're also looking to be not just in the studio generated world versus user generated world spectrum, but to also find the sweet spot between Web2 and Web3, like Blankos is doing. So the onboarding is Web2 onboarding, and then the future sort of interactions can all be Web3 once you're in there and once you've experimented with the game. So our business model is, the building blocks of our platform is sort of like a Lego. It's like a modular Lego that's a blockchain enabled asset that's a moment or a time hook. In our game, we also have in-game purchases, which are similar to skins and Fortnite and other games. And then we also have, since a lot of what's being done in these games is experiencing moments and featured moments, we also have a place for sponsors and ads in those contexts. So it wouldn't just be like an interstitial ad, but it would be like an embedded moment experience that a brand would create that could be viewed as a featured moment. This slide, in the future, we may put in a different position. It probably makes sense to have that earlier, but the basic building block, like I mentioned, is moments, and it's like a Lego of time. And that's different from, Instagram or something like that, which is really like a photo. If you think about it, it might be, obviously a particular time in the photo, but that's really, those solutions are meant to be time or photo sharing apps. And that space has been heavily explored and still evolves with TikTok and everything. But in our case, we're actually creating the digital marker on the blockchain for not just a photo, but the time and the place and the trajectory and various other connected Legos that go in that puzzle that you would create, creatively. So you can create moments in time alongside our company produced moments. Those are the two basic types of content that would go on here, would be user generated and company produced in the beginning, so that we can make this manageable to get off the ground and tested. We're working more on company produced moments. Your moments would essentially be private unless they're featured at first with our initial build out, because of the need to, like, a future milestone would have all the privacy controls that you could have that would actually determine, whether you want to share every moment or whether you want to keep them private and have them in your own trajectories to share just with friends. And to build that out, that would be a future milestone on our fundraising horizon, because we're trying to get this. We've built a lot of this, so we have something that can be tested and put into people's hands now. What we don't have is, Facebook's regulatory department or, advanced AI that scans everything to determine what should be put there and what should be taken down, and anything like that. So essentially, you're putting these in your own private moment collection for now, and we're featuring some of them in our app, for brands and for us and for other people, on a rotating basis, basically. So again, we've got a slide in here for AI impact, which we're not sure if it's going to remain a standalone slide, but it shows the various ways in which, not just that we're thinking about in the future, but that right now we're looking at AI chatbots for conversational moment generation, so that you don't have to fill out a form. And it's great timing that this has become so much easier, because it actually, if you think about it, it becomes more of a fun gamified experience if you can be chatting about what interests you about a moment, or jogging your memory about something, or playing a word game to get a moment started. Sort of like the problem of writing a book or something. It's like everyone could theoretically write a book, but where do you start and what do you write about? Having the chatbot there actually helps us in our sort of testing modules that we're looking at. And then games in progress, we just show a couple different entry point games that we've built, which are each mobile apps which connect with our interface, and can be played on Android or iOS. And we sort of go through some of those features. One right now is more like a virtual art gallery, sort of like people have done in the past, in metaverse projects, where you basically play through and view moments and go into the moments. And the other one is more like an actual, more like a shooter game where you can acquire in-game skins and assets and tools, which also goes into our sort of space that gets created for all these moments, which is this white room that, when you mint a moment, you get a white room, which has a hash, which makes that room special and, that moment special. So like your particular birthday party 8 years ago gets a white room, whereas maybe the one last year doesn't. And like the one 8 years ago connects to the person you married or the person you're still with, or something else, and you have a trajectory which goes out from there, which becomes a separate sort of digital creative product that you're making beyond just posting all of this stuff on Facebook and Instagram. User role playing is one of our future build out categories, which we were just talking about this week with BNB Chain as a potential multi-chain opportunity, which is more similar to PFP products of the past, where within these like thematic worlds, we would have a limited series of NFTs. The current build out of our blockchain enabled side of the game is more like these are all unique NFTs that you're minting. So it's not like a limited series that we're selling 1,000 of, but it's every moment that you mint is created by you and is unique. So it's using the blockchain in a slightly different way than most products do. But we do have a role for that in the future for our user role playing, which we're turning to next as an additional revenue stream and participation point. Trends and social media. Let's skip through a couple of these slides. And so on the fundraising side, we're working actively on this every day and building out the product and testing social media, trying to get the beta tests in users' hands, and are progressing nicely with our roadmap and our milestones. To get to the next milestones, we have two basic points. So 5 million is what we need to make this sort of the next to get to the next milestones that will make this on par with Pokemon Go or something like that. That's like a next unicorn. 1.5 million will get this to the point where we continue to build out incrementally and can get to the next stages of developing small communities around this. And sort of that's our intermediate point. So with the market the way it was, we sort of subject to further feedback since we haven't presented this to any investors recently. The 1.5 million is what we're raising, which is more like an incremental milestone where we would be going for 6 months to a year while immediately raising the remainder of the 5 million. So it's basically like a rolling round that we're proposing, where if we could get 1.5 million, that would lock in our next year, and we would be immediately turning around and raising 5 million total. And the rest of this is just information for investors. On the financial side, we plotted this out and sort of divided our revenue streams along the way we think that it will go. And it's subject to testing, which we're hoping to start soon. And our team, we've got, I think of one of the best features of our team is we have a really multidisciplinary, fleshed out team with additional people beyond this, but not only engineers and developers, but also people who work in immersive entertainment and people who come at this not from a developer standpoint, but from a user testing side and from a content side and social media side, which is exactly where people would encounter our brand and our product and our game. So.